Call your ugly wife who makes $20,000 a year.
Due to the global pandemic, this reunion was the first one since we graduated from high school. The last time I saw everyone was 25 years ago. Although everyone seemed to have grown up, the inner self of this man named Greg hasn't matured at all. Greg and people around him are also relentlessly taunting me to call my wife. Honestly, I didn't want to introduce them to her, but I couldn't just ignore the insults. All right, I'll give her a call. Right after ending the call, a shiny black luxury car pulled up in front of the venue.
Sorry for the wait. I will not make a contract on the drama with you, okay?
Huh.
The person who stepped out of the car was none other than the famous actress, Emily. My name is Kevin Taylor, and I'm 43 years old. After losing my parents in an accident as a child, I was raised by my grandparents. I wanted to repay them in some way, so after graduating high school, I chose to enter the workforce. I got married when I was 40, but soon after, my grandparents also passed away. They often expressed concern about me staying single forever. Now, I believe they are watching over me peacefully from above with my parents.
Kevin, could you check this out, please?
That was a colleague from my workplace calling out to me. I've been working at a construction company for a long time, now in the role of a site supervisor. Sure, I'm on my way. Currently, we are building a large shopping mall, and I often come home late at night. Although we finish the physical labor before dark to avoid dangers, I still have paperwork to deal with afterward. My wife, Emily, supports me through all this. Despite her own busy schedule, she always takes care of me.
Welcome home. I finished early today, so I prepared dinner.
Oh, looks delicious. Let's eat. Emily's cooking is so good that it's not an exaggeration to say it captured my heart the moment I first tasted it. Even though she is at the peak of her career, and it's a challenging time for her, she still finds time to cook my favorite dishes.
Oh, right. Here, take this. Looks like an invitation to a reunion.
The invitation was printed on a beautiful white envelope. Looking at it, I let out a sigh. A high school reunion, huh? Honestly, I'm not really up for it. I've got work, so I'll pass. For most people, maybe high school memories might be filled with youthful adventures. However, for me, those memories aren't particularly fond.
Everyone's an adult now, right? And I haven't heard any bad rumors about that person. Sometimes, even if you didn't get along in the past, meeting as adults can be surprisingly harmonious. Why not give it a try? No pressure, though.
Actually, Emily knows the person I don't want to meet through work, and they're scheduled to work together in a few months. Of course, they don't know that Emily's husband is me. Or rather, only a few people in the world know who Emily married to. I've announced that I got married, but only a few people know it's Emily. Well, I guess so. There are some guys I'd like to catch up with, so all right, I'll go. I marked my attendance and started enjoying my favorite dishes laid out in front of me. Emily quickly finished her meal and headed to the bedroom as she is having an early morning tomorrow. Left alone, I drank some whiskey and reminisced about the past. Back in high school, my grandmother used to pack my lunchbox every day. We weren't wealthy, so the contents were never lavish. An omelet with boiled vegetables and stewed beans. Sometimes there were sausages, and I would silently cheer inside. My classmates brought lunchbox packed with appetizing items like hamburgers or fried chickens. Some guys even enjoyed lunch meals right from the cafeteria. but I always loved the lunchbox my grandma made with all her love.
Yuck. I thought something stank. It's your lunch, isn't it?
Pinching his nose. That was Greg who blurted out those words. He was the kind of guy who would be at the top of the school social hierarchy. His comment drew his friends closer to my desk. Peering into my open lunchbox,
Hey, there are pickles in here. This must be what's causing the smell. The other side dishes look pretty bad too, huh?
Well, can't help it. He's got no parents, right? Ha.
they laughed out loud at such heartless words. Other classmates turned a blind eye, perhaps not wanting to become the next target, except for one.
Knock it off, guys. Kevin's grandma is an awesome cook. Try a bite before you complain.
As he said this, John casually tossed a piece of omelet from my lunchbox into his mouth. He is my best friend.
Hey, John. That was my omelet. It had cheese in it today, and I was looking forward to it.
Usually, it's just a simple omelet, but sometimes it has fillings, which I also look forward to. The lunchbox isn't very large, and it only contains 2 sides. John ate one, meaning one of my precious sides was gone.
Huh? Oh, sorry. I'll treat you to a drink later to make up for it.
While everyone else pretended not to see, John was always there to stand up for me. Because of him, I could face going to school every day, even with guys like Greg and his friends.
You really eat that stuff your grandma makes, huh? No way I could do that.
What? That's rude.
Greg and his friends were clearly unamused and left the classroom with wallets in hand. John looked like he wanted to go after them, but I stopped him.
Thanks, John. Let's just eat, okay?
I'm not good at talking back, so it's enough for me that John gets mad on my behalf. John showed a bit of irritation, but then began eagerly eating his own lunch.
Wow, what's this?
One day, as usual, I went to school and opened my locker to get my textbooks. What I saw were my textbooks covered in graffiti. They were now colored in.
Good morning. What happened here? They did this again.
The deliberately tainted appearance was evident. John was convinced that Greg and his friends were undoubtedly the culprits. I thought so too, but there was no proof that they had done it. John was furious and headed to the classroom, and I quickly followed.
Hey, Greg, cut it out. What's your problem with Kevin? What did he ever do to you?
John burst through the door and yelled loud enough for the whole classroom to hear. Classmates turned to look, wondering what was going on. I had no spare textbooks, so I had no choice but to bring the colorful ones into the classroom.
Haha. What? Did you spill paint or something? What are you, a kindergartner?
Don't mess around. It was you, wasn't it?
Do you have any proof that Greg did it? Accusing someone without evidence is just ridiculous, isn't it?
It was clear they were the culprits. The classmates must have thought so too. But as Greg's friend said, there was no proof. Just when a fight seemed imminent, the bell rang as if to remind us to calm down.
Let it go. It's true there's no proof. Besides, they're still usable, right?
What? It's because you're always so laid back that we keep getting targeted.
I wanted to keep things peaceful, also not to cause any trouble for my grandparents. So I never talked back, just waited for time to pass. Maybe it's because I lost my parents when I was young and lived life worried about what others thought. I think I can't bother anyone anymore. John must have sensed what was on my mind, because he looked me in the eye and sighed heavily.
Thanks, John.
I expressed my gratitude to him. That day, I took my indoor shoes home and tried to wash them in the bath, but they didn't come clean. I could buy them for just a few dollars, and they're not unusable, just a couple of years. I decided to keep using them for the rest of my high school life. And the next day,
Good morning, John. What's that?
as I ran into John by the lockers and looked down to my textbooks, I saw that his were even more colorful than mine.
Ah, it's cool, right? I've been thinking, why be the same as everyone else when you can be unique?
He said this with a smile as he headed to the classroom. He knew I wouldn't buy new books and would continue using them. I can't say how much his small acts of kindness have saved me over the years. Then came our senior year of high school. Everyone was in exam mode, but I never intended to go to college. While everyone else was spreading out their study guides, I was looking through job listings.
What? You're planning on getting a job?
Yeah, that's right. I don't really have anything I want to do, so I don't see the need to force myself to go to college.
It's always better to go to college. That idea holds true no matter the era.
Well, you're poor because you have no parents, and with no brains, you can't even get a scholarship, right?
I had no comeback. It's true that I have no parents and that my family is poor. And as much as I dislike him, Greg is the second smartest in our class. His family is pretty wealthy, and it seems like he never has to struggle. It feels like God must hate me, seeing how different our lives are.
Life's different for everyone, isn't it? There are plenty of successful people who didn't go to college.
Successful, huh? I can't see this guy becoming successful.
No way, no way. Success is more likely for Greg. He's just got a better foundation for life.
Greg and his friends laughed uproariously, and I bit my lip and looked down. I'm honestly not interested in success or any of that. Just living a normal life is fine by me. At least for the future my parents never got to live. But I swore to myself that I'd prove them wrong someday, using this frustration as motivation. After graduating from high school, Greg went to a famous national university. His friends seemed to go to decent colleges too.
Call me anytime if you need anything. I'll come back right away.
No. It's not like you can come back right away. But I'll keep in touch once in a while. Let's both do our best.
John also passed the entrance exams for a college out of state to pursue his dreams. Having been childhood friends, we had been together since kindergarten. I felt a mix of loneliness and a desire to support him. At the station, as the two men hugged, passersby looked on curiously. I got a job at a construction company within biking distance from my home. The colleague there taught me kindly and strictly, as I knew nothing about the left or right. Honestly, I was initially too skinny for this job in construction. But over the years, I packed on muscle, and kids even started calling me the big brother because of my muscles. Of course, it wasn't just my appearance that improved, but my work skills did too. I didn't have any certifications when I started, but I learned on the job with the support of my colleagues. Even without going to college or trade school, there are many qualifications you can get just through years of practical experience. Then, at the age of 30, I reached a major turning point in my life. I was headhunted by a major construction firm, Wilson Group. At that time, I was focusing on design, working on everything from small buildings to large commercial facilities. In the industry, the truly skilled become well known, and I was one of them. I was quite surprised when the president of Wilson Group impressed by one of my buildings, personally came to discuss opportunities with me. I could grow so much thanks to the support of my colleagues and the company that hired me straight out of high school. I always thought I would keep working there, but everyone encouraged me to take this new chance.
It's an opportunity to improve your skills even further. You've got to take it.
So, I ended up switching to my current job at Wilson Group. That's where I met Emily, who would later become my wife. Whoops, it's getting late. I have work tomorrow. Better get to sleep. As I reminisced, I realized it was almost midnight. I quickly took a shower and then joined Emily in bed. The day of the reunion arrived, a mix of anxiety and anticipation.
I'm home. Oh, you're going to the reunion now? Take care and have fun.
As I was about to leave home, Emily, who had just finished work, returned home. Welcome back. Maybe I should have canceled knowing you'd be home early. Just kidding.
You're going to see your old best friend, right? Enjoy it. Call me if anything comes up.
Yeah, I will. I checked my appearance in the hallway mirror, then headed to the venue where the reunion was being held. My high school was not very big, so it was the same faces for 3 years. Since not everyone could come, with about 30 people attending, the venue was a slightly spacious bar. I received a message that we had reserved the entire place. I guess this is the place. I arrived at the destination and looked around, but didn't see anyone who looked like a classmate. It was still 5 minutes early, so they might already be inside. John had messaged that he'd be a little late, so I took a deep breath and opened the door.
Welcome.
A few people inside turned to look my way. I recognized the faces, feeling nostalgic.
Is that you, Kevin?
One by one, people cautiously approached to greet me. Yeah, long time no see. Back in high school, John was the only one who spoke up against the bullying from Greg. But that didn't mean others shunned me or joined in the harassment. They talked to me normally. If I were in their shoes, I doubt I could be as outspoken as John. Probably just trying to avoid becoming a target myself. That's why I don't harbor any feelings of hatred or resentment towards them.
Sorry, I couldn't be there for you.
Some whispered such words to me, while being careful not to let Greg hear. Just hearing that lightened my heart. As we shared old stories, raucous laughter came from the back of the bar. I could tell it was Greg and his friends, just by their voices. Fortunately, or unfortunately, they hadn't yet noticed me. Emily had said that perhaps now that we were adults, old grudges might be resolved, but it seemed they hadn't changed a bit. Worried about being teased like in the old days, I decided to keep my distance from Greg and his friends. Since it wasn't a full class reunion, there were no formal greetings, just a casual get-together with old friends. Everyone was enjoying catching up with those they used to be close to. Then, about 10 minutes later, one man entered the bar.
Kevin, long time no see. You haven't changed a bit.
It was John, the friend I was most looking forward to seeing. Since graduating high school and moving out of state, we kept in touch. But this was actually the first time we'd seen each other since he left. John, it's been a long time since we met last time. I was so happy to see him that I spoke louder than intended. I realized my mistake too late. Attracted by my voice, Greg and his friends, who had been at the back of the bar, started coming our way.
What's this? John and Kevin, is it? Still looking as unlucky as ever, huh?
Well, at 43, It's like I still have a trauma around him. Something about his presence just leaves me lost for words.
Let me guess, you're not doing any real job, right? I heard someone saw a guy who looked like you coming out of a construction site.
One of Greg's friends mocked me. He was probably referring to the large shopping mall I was currently working on. As a site supervisor, it's perfectly normal for me to be there.
Seriously? Some temporary job, huh? Looks like Greg's the only successful one after all. But then again, we never had high hopes for you.
You guys still talking like children? Haven't grown up at all, have you?
John always stood up for me. It's true that there are day laborers and temps at construction sites. They're essential for the work to progress, and I can't stand anyone belittling them. Day laborer or temp, they're working hard. I don't see anything wrong with that. Without them, the site wouldn't function.
What's that? Acting all high and mighty. You're just a construction worker, nothing more.
The pleasant atmosphere of the reunion soured. Some people came here today, and I don't want to argue with them anymore. I know that if I walk away, Greg won't bother chasing after me. I reached out for the half-finished glass on the table in front of me. Just as I was about to leave the scene, that moment came.
Hey, you have a ring on your finger. You're married?
The simple wedding ring on my left ring finger caught their attention as I reached for the glass. One of Greg's friends immediately changed the subject.
You are so annoying, but I bet your wife isn't anything special, being a day laborer's spouse.
Exactly. Does your wife makes like $20,000 a year? That's still more than you, right? Man, you're really pathetic.
What? What are you talking about? His wife is.
I tried to stop John from speaking further by covering his mouth. He apologized with a gesture and closed his mouth.
What? Go on, say it. Are you too embarrassed to reveal it?
Must be. Probably some unattractive old lady, right?
It's incredible how people can badmouth others just based on imagination. It feels like they've grown only in appearance, but regressed inside. I don't care what you say about me, but leave my wife out of it. I respect her.
Well, you have to, don't you? Since she's making more than a day laborer like you. You'd be lost without her.
They laughed crudely. I know all too well the efforts Emily has made to reach her current position. That's why I couldn't let this slide. In fact, I felt more anger towards them than I ever had before. Stop it. It's not about the money. She's a hard worker and a wonderful person.
Since you say that, call that ugly wife of yours who makes $20,000 a year.
Honestly, I didn't want to introduce her, but I couldn't just ignore the insults to Emily. All right, I'll give her a call. I stepped outside the bar and called Emily.
What's up?
Sorry, there's been a bit of a situation. Can you come here?
Okay, I'll be there.
Emily seemed to sense something was up and agreed without asking for details. Right after I hung up, a shiny black luxury car pulled up in front of the bar.
What's the car?
Greg and his friends were eagerly waiting at the entrance for Emily's arrival. John and I stood a step back. I walked up to the luxury car that had just pulled up. I opened the backseat door gently and offered my hand.
Sorry for the wait. I will not make a contract on the drama with you, okay?
The person who took my hand and stepped out was Emily, a well-known actress. She wasn't disguised with sunglasses or a hat, and passersby were sneakily glancing over. It was getting dark, so while it wasn't clear exactly who she was, It was obvious she wasn't just anyone from the car she stepped out of. I didn't want to create a scene in front of the bar, so Greg stunned, and I led Emily inside. The sound of the door opening made several classmates turn around.
What?
Surprised gasps filled the bar. One by one, classmates turned to look, and cheers loud enough to be screams filled the place. And no wonder. Emily is such a big star that there's hardly anyone in this who doesn't know her. She truly is a celebrity of the moment. Finally coming to his senses, Greg and his friends entered the noisy bar.
What? Why is Emily here? And what's with holding hands with Kevin?
He seemed flustered, stuttering throughout his speech, which made me almost burst into laughter involuntarily. Her hand was still in mine as we walked in from the car.
Wow, is this real? Emily is here. She's so petite.
Did Greg invite her? You said she was a drinking buddy, right?
His friends seemed to only see Emily, each blurting out their thoughts. But I've never heard that Greg and Emily were drinking buddies.
Drinking buddies? Are you sure you're not mistaken? Greg and I only met for the first time last month.
Greg actually got a job at a TV station after college. Now he's working as a producer on dramas and movies. I heard that he was involved in a drama scheduled to air next spring and had made a passionate offer, desperately wanting Emily to participate. I was quite surprised when I first heard the producer's name from Emily.
Just shut up. But Kevin, you know Emily?
Greg, looking bewildered, pushed his friends aside and questioned our relationship. Didn't you ask me to call my wife?
Kevin and I are married, you know?
Emily answered nonchalantly. I've always felt somewhat inferior about the mismatch between a major actress and a regular guy like me, so I'd been reluctant to talk about it. But Emily seemed not to care about such things.
Are you two married? As in husband and wife?
Overwhelmed by the shock, Greg couldn't think straight and kept repeating the word married incessantly. It was almost comical, like a broken toy.
Nice to meet you. I'm John. I've heard about you from Kevin from time to time. Never thought I'd get to meet you in person. Worth the trip back from far away.
As everyone realized we were married and the room buzzed even more, John cleverly introduced himself to Emily. Since Emily and I hadn't had a wedding due to our busy schedules, this was the first time they were meeting.
Oh, so you're John. I've heard a lot about you.
Emily perhaps used to be recognized as a famous actress like Emily on the streets, and causing a stir. It seemed to tune out the buzz as if it were just background music. Watching my beloved wife and best friend talking like this made me feel incredibly happy. There was a warm atmosphere around us three, but Greg, as expected, shattered it.
Wait. I knew Emily married a regular guy, but Kevin? Why would a major actress marry a day laborer?
How can someone lowly like you be a match for a major actress? Someone like Greg, who's in charge, would be more fitting for her.
Mismatched. I understand that better than anyone else. I never even imagined I'd end up marrying Emily.
Day laborer? Kevin, you're working as a temp?
No, that's not it. Greg heard someone saw me coming out of a construction site.
Well, Kevin is a site supervisor, so it's normal for him to be at construction sites. And I don't appreciate your condescending remarks about temps.
Emily shares my mindset and values all workers. She understands that if even one person is missing, the whole operation suffers. And this is the same for any industry.
Site supervisor. Ha! You must be joking. You're tricking Emily. Kevin grew up in a poor family without parents. How could he handle such a significant job?
You really don't know anything to mock Kevin like that. He works for the Wilson Group. You've heard of them, haven't you?
Wilson Group, isn't that Emily's family's company? The major construction company.
When I switched jobs, it was the company of Wilson Group, which belongs to Emily's family. It was her father who tried to recruit me. Emily was 20 when we first met, and 10 years younger than me. Her father was worried about his daughter, who was struggling to make it as an actress. Having attended acting school from a young age, she didn't have any qualifications that would help in a regular job. If she didn't make it, what would become of her life? He had never heard any rumors about her dating anyone because she was so focused on her career. When I was 30 and still single, he asked me to meet Emily. He hoped that if she did marry, her husband would eventually take over the business. He told me later that he thought if anyone could be trusted with his daughter and the company, it was me, whom he had personally scouted. Despite our age difference, neither of us thought it would work out. And initially, our relationship didn't progress to dating. However, Emily found that spending time with me was a break from her work-focused life. Perhaps the weight was lifted from her shoulders because a naturalness appeared in her acting. Although she was in a supporting role, she began appearing in well-known dramas. Meanwhile, I found great comfort in our times together. After work, I'd go home, and the next day it was back to work again, with weekends spent visiting my grandparents at their care facility. My repetitive daily life was brightened by her presence. Eventually, we naturally drew closer and began dating. And when Emily turned 30, we got married.
Why would Kevin be with such a big company and married to Emily from Wilson Group? What kind of dirty tricks did you use, huh?
Don't you know that famous large shopping mall in the neighboring state was designed by Kevin? He's designed buildings all over the place. Her father scouted him because he believed in his potential.
Greg was mistaken about everything. I'm not a day laborer, but a site supervisor, and my income is above average for my age group. And my wife, Emily, isn't just a famous actress earning a mere $20,000 a year.
You're kidding. You are a successor to a major company and married to a famous actress.
As a producer, Greg had always felt he was more successful than anyone else. Of course, I recognized the effort it took to get there. Despite believing he was superior to everyone else, Greg must feel defeated knowing that someone like me, a high school graduate with no particular talents, is now the successor to a major company. Moreover, the fact that my wife is a celebrity known all across America probably adds to his sense of defeat. Honestly, after all the harassment I've endured, I'm enjoying this moment. I'm proud of my life and success, though I don't boast about it openly. But it's clear that I wouldn't be where I am without the support of the people around me.
I'm aware of your relationship with Kevin. I haven't heard any bad rumors about you in the industry, and I thought that as adults, you might be able to reconcile. I was looking forward to working with you.
Reconcile? What do you mean?
Didn't I say? No drama contract. I'm sorry, but I can't see myself wanting to work with someone who belittles others like you do.
Emily was set to play the heroine in a hugely popular novel series soon. The original character's appearance and aura match Emily perfectly, which I can see too. That's exactly why Greg must have been so eager to keep making her agree on contract offers. The rest of the cast was quite impressive too. Some had already started filming, and Emily was scheduled to start in a few days.
Wait, please. To cancel the contract now. Filming has already started. A lot of money has been spent, all over something so trivial. You can't just do that.
It may be my prerogative, but I believe starting filming under these circumstances wouldn't produce anything good. I'll explain to the other parties involved.
What will you explain? You are going to tell them you don't like me? That won't fly. You're just going to tarnish your own reputation.
If there had been some scandal, it would make sense for things to be called off. But Greg hadn't done anything impactful enough to cause a major issue. It was just a minor squabble with a classmate. Even if he tried to prove it, there was no evidence.
Perhaps. But what about this?
As she spoke, Emily pulled a rectangular black object from her bag.
What? Is that a voice recorder?
Emily pressed play, and the conversations from when they entered the restaurant began to play back.
So, what is this supposed to mean? You think you can trap me with this? I'm known as a skilled producer in the industry who has created numerous hit projects. A minor squabble like this won't affect me.
You're right. But this should be enough to prove your true character. Let's go, Kevin. There's no point in staying here any longer.
As Emily pulled my hand, I asked her to wait and turned back to Greg. I've always thought you were exceptional, even from our school days. And you still are. But don't you think you've become a bit arrogant? Where you are now is thanks to the help of those around you, right? You're lacking gratitude. Without it, when times get tough, you'll find yourself alone.
Don't be ridiculous, Kevin. How dare you? I'm the one who should be receiving gratitude. Emily, you'll regret this. I don't care anymore. Think of your acting career as over.
With those loser-like words behind us, we left the restaurant. Are you sure it's okay? If he targets you, could that be bad? It's just a rumor on the internet, but I remember seeing an article about it at some point. The article mentioned that if you're disliked by a well-known and skilled producer, you could get blacklisted. The source was unknown, and the truth unclear. But if she was marked by those in power, she would get treated poorly in any workplace. It shouldn't happen, but such stories are all too common. Nowadays, such pressures could escalate into social issues. So I believe it's not as prevalent as it used to be.
It's okay. Even if I get blacklisted, I'll make a comeback for sure. After all, it all comes down to real talent. Whether starting from scratch or from a deficit, I won't give up. I'm not so scared of falling that I behave unethically just to keep working.
Haha, you're as cool as ever. The next day, Emily reported the incident to her manager. Given her loss of motivation, it was clear the shooting wouldn't go well. Emily quickly finished her meal and headed to the bedroom as she is having an early morning tomorrow.
What an unreasonable demand.
That was the initial reaction, likely because she was a top actress, and they thought she was getting too big for her boots. However, the voice recorder proved useful, and Greg was soon called in for a discussion.
What can I say? It's like, the old school vibe, right?
Greg tried to navigate his way out of the crisis with excuses, but things didn't go well, heading instead in a worse direction.
Actually, we've been getting reports about your behavior from several women. I thought it was some kind of joke, but it seems we need to investigate this seriously.
What reports are those?
You know better than anyone what I'm talking about. That's enough for today. We'll respect Ms. Wilson's stance on this matter. You'll handle the aftermath, of course. You're in charge after all.
Perhaps realizing something, Greg's face turned pale, a sheen of sweat visible on his forehead.
Just because she's a major actress, you think this kind of behavior is acceptable? The shooting has already started. Do you realize how many people you're inconveniencing?
It's not Emily who's causing the inconvenience, Greg. It's you. Now back off.
Greg was yelled at loudly, flinched, and helplessly kicked out. After that, interviews were conducted with all female employees. Greg had been using his position to make advances on the women.
If you go against me, you'll lose your job. I'll improve your conditions if you comply.
He threatened them, and at times tried to bribe them. For the rookie assistants, there was no way they could defy such words from their boss. The whole scandal quickly spread across the industry and even made the news. The more famous you are, the faster you fall from grace over any small flaw. Of course, the drama was canceled, and this caused significant inconvenience to many. The penalties for breaking the contract and compensation claims for emotional distress from the female employees turned into a nightmare. Greg was demoted to an assistant and later resigned because he couldn't stand the scrutiny. He sought help from his parents, but they dismissed him, saying, "You're an adult. Handle it." It's unclear where or how he's living now. But one thing is certain. He can no longer return to a normal life.
About that drama, they decided to change the producer and go ahead with it.
Emily excitedly told me that the drama was rescheduled and shooting would start again soon. Being a huge fan of the original draft herself, she was quite thrilled. Meanwhile, my construction projects are progressing smoothly, and it's scheduled to be completed next year.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll be the first to visit with my wife and kid.
John now has a family and a young child. As he left at the station, he said this and waved goodbye with a big gesture. The facility I designed will be filled with people's smiles. There's no other job as fulfilling as this. Though I'll eventually become the company president, I want to live without becoming arrogant like Greg. Always remembering to be grateful, because no one can live entirely on their own.